Yes, Dan Waters has joined us in the studio. Dan is a Manchester United fan, as well as one of our European football experts. So we'll take a look at that game in a bit more detail and the Conference League and find out a bit more about Betis. Let's hear from Xabi Alonso. We brought you the news earlier on that he has been in a press conference today and confirmed he's leaving by Leverkusen at the end of the season. This is what he had to say.
This week, the club and I, we have agreed that these 2 games are going to be my last 2 games as Bayer Leverkusen coach. We have been talking during this week that it's always about the momentum, and now is the right moment to announce it, because we have always had this good communication, this direct communication with the club, and now that we have clarity, is the right moment to say that for sure it's a moment with mixed emotions, that it's the moment to announce it and to know it, but yes, it's the moment to do it. It's not the moment as well to not to talk too much and not to talk about the future, because now that we know, we want to have a proper farewell on Sunday here.
Yeah, I think for what he has done for the club in the short time he's been there, it's been a little short and remarkable. I'm sure he'll get a great...
It was a wonderful season last season, wasn't it, Dan? But not so good this year.
That was always going to be hard to live up to, though, wasn't it?
And
the double.
Yeah, exactly that. And also, as you know, I mean, it was in the part where they won all games apart from getting beat by Gasparini's Atalanta in the Europa League final. No, he's done a brilliant job there. Obviously, of course, though, Real Madrid is a completely different beast. I mean, if you think about post sort of the 60s, Miguel Munoz and Santiago Bernabeu as the chair, they've only had 6 managers that have lasted longer than 3 years.
Wow.
But, to be fair, or lasted 3 years or longer, rather. But, to be fair, Xabi Alonso has been managed by 3 of those managers. Carlo Ancelotti. It's Carlo Ancelotti. Who else is it again? Let me remember.
Your mind's gone blank, is it?
Del Bosque and Mourinho, of course, right?
Oh, okay, good.
And also he managed Pep Guardiola. He got managed by Pep Guardiola, who was leaving sort of the stress of having to do that sort of Mourinho Barca sort of era. So look, I think it could be it could work. The question for me is not the offensive stuff. I think it's just good news for Trent, because he likes to play with a wing back.
Yeah.
So for someone that does his wing back, like Jeremy Frimpong at Leverkusen, will just attack, which is probably a good thing for Trent. Trent may also flip into midfield to be part of the sort of double pivot he has going on, sort of 3-4-3, I guess we'd call it now. Although, you know, it can be quite flexible in attack and defence. The question is really whether he's going to be able to get all these superstars pressing and working, because his team has kind of been a bit like a Hansi Flick team, where you've got a kind of combination of the build-up players, sort of tiki-taka style of thing, but also a really high aggressive gegenpress. And if you've got people like Mbappe and Vinicius Junior up leading the line, whether they're going to do the work for you game in, game out. I mean, Madrid this season, despite still being in the title race and despite going relatively deep in the Champions League, have been really struggling to do the basics quite well. And they've been just sort of, you know, just not doing the simple things in football that most top teams should be able to do. Lose passes, but also just the work rate. And, you know, going into Real Madrid, not just because the media, sort of storm around it constantly. Any loss, you've got about, 2 or 3 outlets with massive headlines calling you out, and television and radio and all the rest. But realistically, getting all those superstars to play when you don't have control really of the transfer policy, because Florentino Perez and the board at Real Madrid are the people that decide players into. Alonso can say, oh, I'd quite like this player, but if they want to bring a superstar in, let's say Alphonso Davies, but he wants, I don't know, the left back that he's had at Leverkusen in, it doesn't really matter, because you have to defer to the boss. And the managers that have seemed to have done well, but if you take Mourinho out of that, if you think about Del Bosque, you think about Zidane, you think about Ancelotti, they're managers that are traditionally quite good at managing up.
Yeah.
It's a lot of it is, whilst also being a very good people person. I mean, they talk about in Spain, sort of in the Spanish, the left hand that Del Bosque had. It's the left hand as a way of being like, a good at putting an arm around a player and sort of, doing the sort of the softer side of the games, the human skills. And there's the players the managers that have been successful and won all the Champions Leagues to those clubs, Del Bosque and Ancelotti as examples, have been really good at sort of keeping the players on side, getting them to work for them, but also not being too demanding of them in sort of aggressive, full frontal press.
He'll understand the politics of the club. He spent enough time there to know what the place is like. So he'll go in with a
terrible sense of entitlement. The way they behaved around the Ballon d'Or.
That's the thing.
He's not typical.
He's not a kind of swagger-like manager. I mean, I think he comes across a pretty humble guy.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how it works and what's going to happen now with Ancelotti and how they manage that. Where he goes next. Does he go to Brazil? That's going to be quiet and has got a bit complicated because he wants to stay in Europe and not live in South America, not live in Brazil. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you wonder what next for Ancelotti. If he's going to stay in club management, where would he go next?
Well, it's difficult, I guess. I mean, he did say previously that his last club would be Real Madrid, which was sort of hinting towards. And I think the Brazilians are quite keen on him because of the players. He has a relationship with the players that he has, but also because he's good at managing stars, and they want to get back to his Joga Bonito sort of, not tactically heavy focused game, but just sort of, letting, basically, if you can get a tune out of that front three of Vinicius, Rodrigo, and Rafinha, which I think Ancelotti probably will be one of the most primed people in football to do. So it does seem like it's a good fit, but there's also been massive offers from Saudi Arabia. But again, if you don't want to live in South America, do you necessarily want to go live in Saudi Arabia? So we'll have to wait and see with Ancelotti. I think, as you say, even though there are still some outlets, especially in Spain, saying that he will go to Brazil, there are others in England and in Spain that have been sort of dampening that. So we'll have to wait and see. But as you say, I think, look, Alonso will be very much capable of managing the situation because he knows the club, and I think that he knows those skills, and he has that aura about him, this sort of idea. He has the sort of grace and aura of a Real Madrid manager, and even though that's an ineffable quality, it does feel like it'll be something that'll carry in his favour. And he strikes me, having been in the dressing room with all these top stars from 2009, 2014 to 2014, I think he will know how to operate and act around people that really do have incredibly big egos.
But we talk about Spurs, Manchester United very quickly. Got a couple of minutes. Quick one on Betis, and I think Andy's feeling it's going to be the toughest game they've had so far in this competition.
Doesn't say much, but it will be.
Lo Celso is there. People will know him. People obviously know Anthony scored last night, the great free kick. Johnny Cardoso seems destined for Spurs next season, apparently. So what are they going to be up against? How do you think they'll match up then?
I think it's going to be a really tough game for Chelsea, actually. I think post Anthony coming in, ironically, I mean, it's not just Anthony, a lot of things have clicked around him. But I think if you're looking at the La Liga team of the season, Isco and Anthony are probably nailed on to be in that. Wow. Isco's been phenomenal.
He's only been there for half a year.
I know, but he's been. They're obsessed with him. Spanish media, they're absolutely obsessed with him. They think he's brilliant. I mean, I remember Ten Hag saying that Anthony's, Anthony can only do this, cut in with his left foot and strike. Well, he made the argument that Ian Robben couldn't do that, and Ian Robben had quite the career. Whether Anthony will be able to do it against Chelsea will be interesting. I mean, it's a European final, so who knows? And this means so much for Betis because obviously their city neighbours have won the Europa League so many times, Sevilla, and they're also currently going for a pretty sort of terrible time. So I think this is a really big one for Real Betis. It's massive for the history of the club, and I think for Chelsea there'll be less pressure on winning it, apart from the sort of the shame of losing it. Losing a tournament, they really are the biggest and best sort of team in it. But if you look at the way Real Betis set up, I think they're really set up to give them a good go. I mean, as you say, Cardoso's been playing very well. They've got a lot of good players on the bench.
That suits Chelsea. Chelsea want teams to come on to them.
And I think
so much better.
How many times have you played your full strength team in this tournament? You haven't,
Never.
have you?
Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs, Monday to Friday afternoons 1 till 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.